Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Yo Kids Podcast. Oh, I've been doing really good at this. Let me see. So make sure you check out our Homeschool Yo Kids Expo schedule at homeschoolyokidsexpo.com. We have a array of states that we are going to, 14 in total. We've already got one down. I don't know when this will be published. I don't think there'll be another one down yet, but 13 more to go. So please check out our schedule because we're coming to a city near you. And big shout out to Classical Conversations, one of our supporting sponsors. So I'm gonna get that right. I'm gonna learn how to do commercials eventually, but I ain't got it yet. But let's welcome Trey. Trey, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Trey Williams from Trey Williams Books. I'm a pastor of a local church. I actually live in New Orleans. Right now, I'm going to school and going to school at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. Live on campus. And if you're familiar with the New Orleans area, the giant Lake Pontchartrain, and then the longest bridge in the world. My church is across the lake. So it's about a 45-minute drive from where I live. And I always feel like I'm Jesus, like crossing the lake to go preach.
Nice.
But
Okay.
but yeah, and I write kids books. And so full-time student, pastor, author, homeschool dad, the things.
Okay. Yes, let's talk about them. First of all, didn't know you were in New Orleans. I love New Orleans. Love New Orleans.
All
I
right.
had Me and the girls went to I exposed them to their first Mardi Gras last year. So we went to like 4 parades. We got like 2 suitcases worth of stuff. And my little one just asked me like 2 weeks ago, said, "Can we go to Mardi Gras this year?" I said, "No, love, that's not an every year thing." We can't do that every year. No.
Yeah, it's something different. It is. I'm not a New Orleans local. I'm local from Georgia.
Okay.
I'm local from Savannah, Georgia. But it's always like, okay, it's a parade. It's a parade. No,
Mm,
it is
no.
so much more than a
It's
parade.
an experience.
It
It's an
is. It
experience.
is. And
Yes.
and and being living here, you really got to watch the parade schedules, because if you're trying to go somewhere, all of a sudden
Oh, you'll get stuck.
half the city's shut down. And so yeah, but I love this city. This is, I've lived Savannah, Georgia, near Atlanta, Georgia, Northwest Georgia. I lived in Kentucky, and this is by far like, I love the people, the culture, the food culture. The food is amazing. I grew up, growing up in South Georgia, the food's good. Uh, moved to Kentucky. I'm not trying to dig on Kentucky, but
It was none like it.
yeah, food tasted like disappointment. And they would bring it out, and it would look like, oh man, this is gonna be some good soul food. This is what's up. And then you taste it, and it's like
It's missing
there's
something.
something missing here, like seasoning. It's yeah.
That's good. Yes, New Orleans is definitely. That's what my thing is about them too. I love the food. Love,
Ooh,
love, love the
come on.
food. Um, but the experience in general, like the culture down there is just amazing. The I don't know, it's just I always talking, it's like, it's Louisiana and then there's New Orleans. So I
Right,
love that.
right.
And I feel like their schools aren't you able to choose what school you
Yes.
go to there?
Yeah, so after Katrina, basically, kind of the way that they were like, okay, the quickest way we can get everything back online. And again, this is secondhand information. This is from what I understand. The quickest way we can get everything back online is just to basically privatize the school systems in the Orleans Parish, and so everything's charter schools. And so yes, you can basically choose what school you want your kids to go to. Problem is getting them there. And then the
Okay.
other the other thing is that they have privatized uh, bus companies, and so you don't you'll see all these buses riding around that are all, you know they have you don't see, Jefferson Parish um, school
Public
systems
school.
bus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you see buses from a private company that do that, and some of them. Some of them are sketch. Some of, because it's a private company, so you're riding by this bus, you're like, man,
Got
that's
you.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so it's just it's different. I I don't know. We don't clearly we homeschool, so we don't
Yes,
we're
so
not.
that was gonna be my next question. What led you there?
Yeah, so for us, we've been homeschooling since my son was first grade, and I'm from South Georgia again, so I say kindergarten funny. Everybody gets on me about the way I say kindergarten, but I'm just gonna own it. But he was in kindergarten, and we were near Atlanta, and the school system was okay. And then we went to uh, I took a pastoring job up in the northwest corner of Georgia, and it is Appalachian Mountains. The I love it. I love the people. Again, I love that culture. Everything is a lot slower pace. Like, you don't get in a hurry for nothing. Uh, so don't think we're about to go do something quick. But and then the education system. Um, the goal of the education system in that county was to bring everybody to mediocre.
Mm.
And basically, what the thought process of this county was that we are training you to go to work in the textile mills. We're training you to go to work in the carpet mills. And my son, when he was in kindergarten, he was in first grade at this school in North Georgia. And my wife, who was in public school teacher, kindergarten teacher for 10 years, and then she got out of teaching and went to work for education technology company called Mastery Connect, which is now under the Instructure. Yeah, they own a bunch of different companies. So like Canvas, if you've ever taken online classes at a university or anything, it's probably Canvas. My wife works for them, but anyhow, she has a master's degree in assessments. And data and assessments and what have you. So she, before the beginning of the first grade year, she tested my son on his Lexile level and different things and saw where he was at. He goes to the school and he loves it because it's easy. And my son he strives on easy. He hates being challenged. So he loves it, and it's easy, and he's like the smartest kid in the class, and we get done at the end of the school year, and he's made like straight A's all the way through, not had a trouble, and we test him, and his Lexile level and everything that he's tested on is lower
Oh
than when he
wow.
started making straight A's. And another thing, he was able to bring a book to school. It was like bring a book from home, bring your favorite book from home, and he's in beginner chapter books at this point. In first grade, it's just his reading level was off the chart. Now he has no common sense whatsoever, but reading level was out there. And he brings this chapter book to school, and his teacher is like, "You can't read that," and he's like, "I can read it." And so he cracks it open and he starts reading it and to her. And so he comes home and tells us this conversation. And so me and my wife are like, it clearly couldn't have went that way. There's no way.
That
There's
she
no
told you.
way that our son's teacher does not know his reading level. So we go to a
Mm.
parent teacher conference, and she retells the story the exact same way. She's like, he brought this book, and it was a big, thick book. And I was like, there's no way you can read that. And then he opened up and he read it. And we're just like, you, this is towards the end of the school year,
Mm.
and you don't know my kid's reading level? You don't, this is a problem. And so the funny thing is that was the motivation for us to explore homeschooling. Then, so we went to first thing we did, shout out to the homeschool conferences. All right, when
Mm.
we were so we went to a homeschool conference. We actually we went to a different homeschool conference that was a Christian based homeschool conference, and from there for our worldview, our Christian worldview from there, that kind of really opened up our eyes on, we're from a biblical standpoint, we are the ones that are responsible for training up our
Mhm.
child in the way they should go. But when you send them off, for multiple hours a week, and the person that sees them the most is not you, they are training them up. And so it convicted us of like, no, we need to be the ones to do this. And my wife's a rock star. She works full time and she homeschools, and so I don't like the way how she does that is I don't know, but my wife is I'm 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 the kind of guy, I'm like super ADHD, so I'm squirrels distracted.
So
But
you're there, but you're not there.
yeah. Well, I'm no, I'm there and I'm everywhere because uh but my wife, she is very much so task, calendar, bam, 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 bam. And so she's really good at managing, you know, several school districts and, that she does for her job, and then managing our little school district that we have in our apartment.
Nice. I love that. What grade is your son in now?
Yeah, Dad. No, he's in seventh. He's in seventh grade.
Okay, so he's been okay.
Yeah.
He's
He's
been
in seventh grade. He's doing awesome. My daughter is is in second grade. So yeah,
okay.
yeah, seventh and second grade. Yeah,
Nice. How are they liking it? How are they
they
enjoying
love it. They love like we threatened them by like, we're gonna send you to public school. Like,
it?
no, no.
Please
We
no.
we'll have to actually put on clothes. We won't be able to wear pajamas. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Nice. Do you know what if they use curriculum, or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is she in charge of the curriculum,
Yeah,
creating the
she
curriculum?
well, she selects the curriculum.
Okay.
So being that Tammy does work full time, she we have to have a curriculum that is kind of that does a lot for us, and so we use a Becca. And so
Okay.
okay, all right, cool. So we use the video lessons from a Becca, and they're expensive, but
Mm,
they have been really really good for our situation because we can put the videos in front of them. They have a teacher. The teacher goes through it. We just make sure that they're on task. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They come in. They turn the stuff into my wife. And what's cool about it is that all the videos are recorded at their school in Pensacola in front
mm.
of a live classroom, and so they'll bring the other kids up. And so like when my daughter was in kindergarten, she's like, I've got a boyfriend. And I was like, no, you
What, in
don't.
the class in the
Yeah. I was like, where is he? Where is he? And then she's like, it's him on the screen. He's my boyfriend. I was like, all right. I'll allow it
I
because
know.
that kid's in Pensacola, Florida somewhere, and probably like 5 years older than her. So yeah,
Oh
she,
my God. Well,
yeah,
that's cool. Y'all have found
and
your groove.
yeah, absolutely. And then we live on campus and on the seminary.
Okay.
And the building that we live in, we live in an apartment building. The building that we live in is all to live in this building on this particular building on campus, you have to have at least two kids. And so everybody in here has multiple kids. And we have an awesome homeschool community here on
Nice.
campus. We have homeschool
Nice.
PE, Spanish, and stuff like that. So a lot of nice supplemental stuff that we can do as well.
Nice. So is it like a co-op that you all are in there, or
No,
is it
it's
just
actually
families
yeah,
in general?
it's just families in general. It's not a co-op per se. It's just they'll put on some extra classes. So there is a classical conversations. I was trying to remember. It was either it's not Charlotte Meck. That's a school district. Charlotte Mason. Yeah, it was either Charlotte Mason or it was Classical Conversations. But there is a Classical Conversations co-op here on campus. But we do a Becca, so we
Gotcha.
don't, we don't hit up that one. So
Gotcha. Yeah, no, classical. I've learned a lot in the last probably like 3 weeks about classical conversation. It sounds like they definitely offer an amazing community as far as support goes and their curriculum.
So classical conversations is an awesome thing. And you've learned this, and the just the they really work with the developmental stages of learning. And so there's the memorization when they're little, there's the application, in middle grades, and then the critical thinking of adult, of high school and what have you. And it's funny, y'all go to homeschool conferences and stuff, and it's like I can pick out the teenagers come by, I can pick out the classical conversations because they come up to the
Really?
booth. Yeah, they come up to the booth and they're asking like the questions that it's like, um, let me think about
Nice.
this. So yeah,
Nice.
it creates critical thinkers, which is great.
Nice. Okay. So let's get to you and what you do though, because you are a children's book author.
Yes, yeah.
How
So,
did you get
um,
there?
yeah, homeschool conference. Everything comes back to homeschool conference. So yeah, so my daughter was about 5 years old, 6 years old, and my wife was we were at a homeschool conference, and my wife was looking for a a book. A She's like, she's like, I want something very specific. I want a early a chapter book to help transition from easy readers into chapter books. And what my wife was looking for was something to read to our daughter. And she's like, so second, third grade reading level, um, kind of geared towards girls. That is, and my wife's like, I am so tired of reading about princesses and unicorns, and I just want a good story. Or she's like, everything else is just rude languages, rude language, rude relationships between siblings, siblings that fight constantly, little snotty brats that are disrespectful to teachers and parents. And my wife's like, oh, that's not happening. And so she's going around this homeschool convention looking for this book, and then she doesn't find it.
Mm.
And so we get back in the truck to drive home, and she's disappointed about this. And she looks at me and she goes, "Why don't you write it?"
Just like that.
Just
Like,
like
hey,
that.
hey, hey, I got a need here, sir.
Yeah, write me a book.
I
So
love that.
we're coming home from we're coming. Oh man, I think we were still in Georgia at the time. Yeah, so we're coming home from Nashville, Tennessee, to where this homeschool conference was, to North Georgia. It's only a couple hours ride, and by the time we got home, the wheels had been turning, and I had characters, I had premise, I had the world built, and because I just had to use this car ride just to think about this. I got home, I set my suitcase down, I got to my computer, and I banged out the first chapter of this book before I even unpacked. And that was the beginning of Phoebe and the Hero's Path. And so then I was like, I don't know if this is any good or not. And so we read it to kids, and the kids were like, they only had one chapter, and maybe two chapters before we read it to kids, and they were like, "Oh, what's going to happen next? I gotta know,"
Nice.
And so that was the motivation in the first book to keep writing the first book, because like my kids were like hounding me
What's
about
next? Come on, Dad.
what's
We need some
next,
more
what
chapters.
we need some more chapters, what's up. And so yeah, I'm just gonna drop this real quick. Hold on, I'm techie. I'm so that's is the wrong screen. There we go. That's the right screen.
Okay.
Um, and so yeah, Phoebe and the Hero's Path. That's the first book. Published it. I self-published it. The artwork is done by the artwork for this one's done by a guy in Egypt, Cairo,
Oh,
Egypt.
wow.
His name's Ahmed Shemet, and just did a phenomenal job of. Uh, I'm taking the
Please,
idea that I had in my head and putting it on paper. Yeah,
did you find him on Fever, Fiverr, what
similar Upwork.
out Upwork?
Yeah, Upwork. It's
Oh,
it's
okay.
um it's similar to Fever. It's kind of,
I don't even
it's
know which
kind
one
of
it is. Fiverr or Fever.
Fiverr,
Maybe
Fever,
Fiverr.
that's
I
kind
don't
of
know.
like the Temu version, and then Upwork is more like the eBay version. It's just a
Okay,
little step up. Uh,
gotcha.
no, I did. I found him on Upwork. Did a phenomenal job. Let me see here. Oh, wow, this should be able to change it over, but it's not. And so, so Phoebe, the way she does, she gets around. She has her Velociraptor that is her beast friend, and anywhere she goes, she has her triad whip. She attaches it to the tail of this guy or this girl. Priscilla is her name of the dinosaur, and she gets pulled around like that. She rides a skateboard. She has a cape. And something else for me whenever I started writing this is I was like, okay, my wife was tired of the princesses and unicorns, and I would talk to little girls at my church, and they were into dinosaurs. They were like, my favorite animal is a dinosaur, and so there's no reason that little girls can't be into that. And I knew, there was this, like the little girl at my church had talked to me all the time about dinosaurs. I was like, hey, dinosaurs going in this because it's my book. And, and then like just like Phoebe, the way she dresses and everything. This is how my daughter dressed when she was 6 years old.
Oh,
Like
nice.
if we let my daughter decide like you can wear whatever, this is like that's how she's dressing. It's like a full dress, sparkly tennis shoes, a fanny pack, a cape. And so it's just this is like Phoebe's look. And so Phoebe is very high energy, excitable. But she goes on this adventure, and in the first book, she has to go take a letter to her siblings up at Heroes Hill, and her parents and everybody tell her, "Hey, there's only one way to get to Heroes Hill. You have to stay on the hero's path." But as she goes along, she's told by kind of a know-it-all owl, says, "No, all the roads lead to Heroes Hill. Any of them can take you there." And so she takes an easy road, and it takes her somewhere she doesn't want to be. It takes her to the Hugging Hippo village, where the Hugging Hippos try to hug her, and once they hug you, they never let go. And so
Mm.
she gets into some peril there and escapes that, and she gets back, and then takes another wrong turn as she goes. And we got swag, so that's the T-shirt that came out of
I
that. That I
just
just
want to
want to hug.
hug.
Yeah. So then she comes and takes another wrong turn. She gets mixed up with the gummy the sour gummy bears that try to feed her to the great gummy worm, and which this giant gummy worm that she tamed, or she doesn't tame it, but she wrangles it and rides it, and just the whole book is just it's full of stuff like, I would get somewhere and like, all right, well, what happens next? And I'd go to my kids. I was like, just hey, start throwing random ideas. She rides a giant gummy worm. Right, that's happening. That's going in the book. And so she rides a giant gummy worm, and so I get all these like crazy ideas, and I just kind of write them into the story. And so the second book is Phoebe and the Lonely Land Adventure. And this book I wrote different. So this
Mhm.
book, um, instead of writing it chapter by chapter and reading it to my kids, I wrote the whole thing and dropped the whole book on them at one time. And this book goes a lot more into that character development of who Phoebe is and what she's about. The first book was very much so action adventure. Um, this one is very much so. Uh, yes, she is going on a journey, but the journey is really what is going on inside of herself, and it is this idea of depending on others and being part of a team, and as the book opens, her and her siblings are battling the bubble breathing dragon. And it's not a fire breathing dragon; it's a bubble breathing dragon because it's a kid's book, and it's funny. It sounds funny, but
Yeah.
the bubbles are dangerous too, so she can't get hit by the bubbles. But she's battling the bubble breathing dragon, and in this battle, she gets separated from her siblings, and she gets stranded out in the Lonely Lands, which is a place that is kind of um, the thought process in my mind is this is going to be similar to like Death Valley, Death Valley in the States, and it's just a desert and there's nothing out there, and so she's stranded out here and she's having to find her way back, and in doing this she comes across a wolf named Cain, who is cursed to wander, and a mysterious guy named the Shadow that we find out some things about him and who he is and what he's up to, and then also just some more kind of fun guys like here the Motor Misfits. This a motorcycle club of you know scorpions and Gila monsters and meerkats and just stuff that you find in there. There's just some comic relief as we go through, but a this book very much so and she learns the value of family. She learns the value of kind of not always feeling like she's this lone wolf of going at it on her own. And so a book that I really, really love, that's the second book. Got some swag from the Motor Misfits t-shirt. And then the third book, which is my favorite so far, because this one's just hilarious. It's so funny. And so it's Phoebe and a Runaway Princess. This one is based in a fictional like Hollywood, Beverly Hills in the 80s. And as this guy right here, we have Priscilla. She's back, of course, the right hand friend, and then we have Eddie the emu. And Eddie the emu, he teaches roller skate aerobics, and so he's every time he speaks, he yells. He does. He never talks at a normal volume. Very eccentric, and Eddie's one of my favorite characters because Eddie was. Whenever I sat down to write this book, I was taking all of my like favorite movies from the 80s, and I was putting a lot of those aspects in it. And so one of the things I was like, whatever happens in this book, one thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a chase. There's going to be like this 80s, 70s chase that goes through the streets, and they're going to go down the hill like the San Francisco like hill where they're jumping stuff. There's going to be a drawbridge, like all the chase movies. The drawbridge is going up, and I was like, this is happening. Regardless of whatever happened is, and this is happening. And so I needed a character that in the book that was fast enough to outrun Priscilla, or at least to make this competitive, right? And then something, so I'm like, well, what kind of animal can this be? What would be interesting? And so I kind of got hung up there because this is early in the book that we come across, because it's our one lead on the Runaway Princess, on finding this princess, and I come across this news article about Bibu the emu, who escaped from its emu farm in Tennessee and led police in a chase on like a 20-mile chase across
What?
Tennessee. Yeah, so I'm like, that's it. That's perfect. It's going to be an emu.
That's
And
wild.
yeah. And so uh, as I started writing the emu, I was like, all right, well, because the premise of this one is that in another area, the princess of this area, she disappears before her coronation. She takes off where she's supposed to be coronated as the next, who's going to be the next queen. We've got to find this princess. And so they're kind of the first, it kind of starts off like tracking down leads. And so I was like, well, how is this eccentric emu going to like be somewhere where it can be a lane? So, all right, it's the royal aerobics teacher. And,
Yeah, I was
and I
gonna
was
say he's giving like a Richard Simmons vibe. Like
I wasn't gonna say it because he's not that. Yeah, but yeah, Richard Simmons is yeah. That's where I got the the
With the headband and
inspiration. Yeah,
yeah.
I got the inspiration for Richard Simmons. I wasn't gonna say that because there's like a lot of negative, like people. But yeah, Richard Simmons was the anyhow. To say it without saying it. But yeah, the aerobics instructor, and so and I was like, okay, he yells all the time, and he roller skates. Let's just make him roller skate because this is my book and I can do that. Um,
Yes.
and so once I put him in, and he was only supposed to be in for like one, maybe two chapters of the book, but I was like, I love this character so much, like you're about to hang out the entire book, and so yeah, and so basically what they're doing here is that they are following leads all through this fictional Hollywood Beverly Hills, trying to track down Princess Hattie as she is, trying to figure out what she wants to do in life. And so they go and
Ah,
they shoot a music video, even though none of them know how to play any instruments. How hard can it be, right? And the band is this is Eddie, so it's Eddie and the Dynamite Eaters. So if you
mhm.
play guitar, you'll catch that reference. Uh, but yeah, and so they're pretty terrible at it, but they have a good time, and they what other picture did I put in here? Oh, so after all this, they find Princess Hattie, and now we've got to make it back all the way across town before the coronation, and so this is just an illustration of them heading back, and so Princess Hattie has her own skateboard, and she gets up and kind of rolls out behind them, and just it's really really funny, really fun. This like when I say this is my favorite book, um like this one I really enjoyed writing, and this one I wrote chapter by chapter for the kids, and when I got done with it and I was like, okay, we need to reread it before I send it to the editor. um I reread it and I laughed and laughed and laughed. I
Oh.
was like, I wrote this and it's so funny. And the fourth book, I am finishing up the final chapter of the fourth book. It is based off of a fictional New Orleans, and
Mm.
yeah, so they come to the it's Izalusa is the name of the city. It's the easy, and then just some French kind of the Izalusa. And so they go out in the swamps and they're trying to find the Cat Island pirates to find the treasure of Izalusa to return it, and a lot of pirate stuff, a lot of Cajun stuff, and so a lot of fun. I've really had enjoyed writing this book as well, and so hopefully by the end of the year it will be ready. Illustrations take forever.
Mm.
Um, I've so the first book was illustrated by a guy named Ahmed Shalmet. The second two, Ahmed ghosted me when it was time to write the next one, and so I had to get another illustrator. And so Katrina Rodriguez um, illustrated the other two. It takes forever to get illustrations back. I mean,
Mm.
I was like, man, I wish I could draw.
Right.
I
Or
can't.
work one of those programs. That's my thing too. Um,
I can work the programs. That's the drawing. The skill behind it is where I lack. The programs
yeah.
I can walk all over them. But and then I also do nonfiction, more Christian books. But I have a discipleship book that I've done, and then somewhere I have a new believers book, and I don't have it handy. I guess this is one of those things that you should have already had. But I have a new believers book too, that just more on the nonfiction. And so, and then something else about Phoebe is I am very outspoken Christian. Clearly, I'm a pastor. Um, but the way I write Phoebe in a way that if you are Christian, you will pick this up and you will go, okay, I see the biblical allegory through this.
Mm.
I see Christian worldview in this. I can take this story as a Christian. I can take this story and use this story as a way to teach biblical principles, Christian worldview principles. However, if you are not a Christian, you can pick this story up and go, okay, there's just a good story. It's a good, fun story. There's nothing in your face Christian about it. We're not quoting Bible verses, anything like that. It's kind of like, Chronicles of Narnia, Lord of the Rings, C.S. Lewis and those guys, how, if you, C.S. Lewis is really obvious, but if you pick up on the allegory, you pick it up. And if not, it's just, man, what an awesome story. Now, clearly, my Christian nonfiction is very Christian, and I'm writing a book. I'm writing a middle grades book that is going to be geared towards biblical masculinity. It's going to be a high fantasy for middle grade boys. So kind of length and reading level of like a Harry Potter. But geared towards biblical masculinity. What does it mean to be a man? Kind of in a biblical sense. Because our society is trying to feminize our young men, and I'm of the belief, and not everybody's going to agree with me, that we don't need feminine men. We need men, and our families need men. And men that are not going to be, jerks, and not going to be, but and again, I'm talking about biblical masculinity. Biblical masculinity teaches a man that you love your wife like Christ loved the church and laid his life down for her. What's toxic about that?
Well, I don't know, because the biblical sense, the wives, they had many of them, like many wives.
Yeah, and right. And so there's a biblical ethic in the Old Testament of why did Abraham have multiple wives? Why did Solomon have over 1,000 wives?
Solomon was, that's who I was thinking about when you said
it. David. And so in the New Testament, as we move into the New Testament, especially Paul, he lays this out very specifically in a New Testament context, where in the first century Rome, polygamy was still a thing that was accepted. Paul's saying, no, you need to be a husband of one wife. You need to be monogamous in your relationships. And what's interesting about Old Testament ethics is that even though these guys did these things, there was never. It's almost like God goes, okay, I know you're going to do it, and I'm going to put parameters on. I'm not cool with it, but I know it's going to happen. So one of the things that we look at Jesus, and Jesus says, hey, there are laws. He's talking to the Pharisees, and he's saying, hey, there are laws about divorce, not because divorce is okay. It's because you're wicked, and I know y'all are going to divorce each other. And so the law puts parameters on how to do this. Not that God is okay with it. It's just God knows it's in a fallen and corrupt world. God knows this is going to happen. And so I'm going to put parameters on how it's going to happen. And again, we can look at that same. So several things that become that in the Old Testament, we go, that is not okay. It's like slavery, servitude, multiple wives. And so what we have to understand about war and destruction. And what we have to understand about God's law is this is not like how to make an A on being holy. This is how to make a D. Like this is the bare minimum. Because God is giving this to a fallen and corrupt people and saying, hey, I know y'all are all kind of messed up and y'all are going to do terrible things. And to keep that terribleness in check, here is how that you can. I know because of the way the economics are on the middle to late Bronze Age, you're going to have servants. That's the way of life. here are the parameters about how you have servants. You can only have them for 6 years, and you release them on the seventh year. You have to treat them like part of your family. You have to provide for them. You cannot treat them badly, like in other nations. Yes, you are going to go to war because you are a nation. Here are the parameters about what you do when you go to war. You don't pillage. You don't torture people. You do this in as humanely way possible. And yes, there are times that God uses the nation of Israel as his hand of judgment against other nations. But also, we see in the book of Judges, they start doing things that pagan nations are doing, and that's the beginning of the slippery slope. And so, yeah, but when we get into biblical ethics about how do we look at some of the stuff that's in the Old Testament, and we go, oh, do we ignore it? Do we shy away from it? Or do we embrace it and go, hey, this is a fallen world. We go back, and as far as marriage and monogamy in marriage, we go back to the very first marriage. God creates all things, and he creates man, and he looks at his creation, he says it's good. And it's not until he creates woman and he says, this is very good. And with that, God's plan, the way he made it, is man and woman, one man, one woman, in a monogamous relationship together. And so we see that.
This in your you want to cover that material in your nonfiction?
No. Okay. More so that I definitely don't get into that, because this is for third graders. This is no, I'm not dumping into this. This is biblical ethics. This is stuff that
Phoebe.
we go to.
I'm not talking about Phoebe. I'm talking about
not even in the middle grade. So the middle grades, what it talks about more so is courage.
Okay.
It talks about stepping up. It talks about, not waiting on someone to take care of you your entire life, but to get out there and to take care of other people. It talks about being a warrior. It talks about fighting for what is right. Because in the beginning, the main character, he's kind of a coward. He's soft, and he depends on others to take care of him. And through this trilogy of books, it's going to take him from being soft and being a coward into being courageous and being a man and being kind of more of what, because ultimately that's what biblical masculinity is courage. It is, I believe from a biblical worldview that God looks at a man and says, all right, husbands, you're ultimately responsible for your family, and you're responsible to if your family is going to succeed or fail, I put that on your shoulders. If you disappear, you've already failed your family. If you turn that over to your wife, you've failed your families, and that is on you. And so this one is going to be, no, we're not getting into biblical ethics in that. But it's one of those things. I will not shy away from any topic. Just talking on a podcast, but no, we're not. I'm not dropping that. I'm not dropping some, first semester seminary biblical ethics in a third grade reading level, fictional work. But yeah, it's just more so about courage. Gotcha. Is more of what that's about.
How long is Phoebe? Your Phoebe series, as far as the book, because you said it's chapters.
Yeah, so the most challenging part about writing a Phoebe book. So this is the book.
Oh, nice.
All right, and so it's not long. When we look inside of it, let me see here. All right, I've got a massive key light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the font is 16 font. So the font's big. It's spaced out. The words, I think 11,000 words. I'm not a numbers person. I'm a words person. I think 11,000 words. 16 chapters. Chapters are relatively short. Chapters are the same length. The books are the same length, same number of chapters. And so the most challenging thing about writing a Phoebe is I have a certain length that I want each chapter to be.
Mm.
And I have a certain length I want the book to be. And the word count and the length of the book is very important because I want this to be a read aloud. I want parents to be able to take this and say, all right, we're going to read a chapter of Phoebe, and I want them to have every time they read a chapter of Phoebe, it's a consistent experience where the amount of words we're going to read is going to be relatively the same. The amount of time that we're going to spend is going to be relatively the same. It's not going to be one of those things that we sit down to read, especially if you've got a smaller child. And some nights it takes 5 minutes to read a chapter, and some nights it takes 10 to 15. Okay, so short chapters, shorter books, but they are chapter books, and about 4 or 5 illustrations in each one, because what the goal is to start helping kids develop the skill of being able to hear words and make the mental, see this happening, because that's something else. One of the things that's kind of robbing our kids of the ability to read well is they come out of easy readers, and instead of going into chapter books, they go into the little graphic novels. And I'm not, I'm not digging on Dogman and Captain Underpants, Diary of the Wimpy Kid too much, but it does. Everything that's going on, there's a visual representation of it right there. And so the child never has to develop the skill to be able to read words and imagine what's going on. It's done for them. And so with the chapter book with limited illustrations, I'm really trying to help children develop that skill of, let me read words and imagine what's going on and use my imagination. And because I'm going to tell you, I can take an illustration, it can be amazing, but there's nothing more amazing than a child's imagination. Whatever we can draw and put in this will not compare to what a child can imagine of going on. And let it man, that's the beauty of books, and that's the beauty of doing this as a read aloud for small children, is because it teaches kids that, oh my goodness, these books, in these books, there are these amazing stories. There are amazing characters that I like, and there's action, there's adventure, and a good book can do that. A good book can open up a child's love for reading.
Yes, sir. Yes. And it sounds like you're creating them. Definitely. What's the age group for your Phoebe books?
So if you're gonna do it for a read aloud, the age range can be pre-reader up to first second grade. The reading level is second to third grade. So the first Phoebe book is and I'm going to tell you how deep into this I am. The first Phoebe book is on a good solid second grade reading level, pushing up to a third grade reading level. By the time we get to the third and fourth Phoebe books, they are now kind of pushing more high second grade, third grade reading level. Because my hope is that as the child reads this, they become more proficient at reading, and so now I'm kind of upping the reading level just a little bit in each book to kind of get them, and so I'm telling you, these books are to help kids read, and to develop that, and also when I set out to write Phoebe, I wanted this to be strictly on a second grade reading level. But the reason that the first book is second, third grade is the vocabulary is more in that second grade space, the sentence structure is now pushing that third grade space. And the reason being is because a second grade reading level sentence structure are very short, choppy sentences that are easy for kids to read, but very difficult for adults to read. And it's laborious for an adult to read these short, choppy sentences. We have gotten used to compound sentences and more complex sentences. So I use the compound sentences quite a bit in the hero's path. That brings the reading level up, but it brings the readability for an adult. It makes it much more enjoyable because, again, one of the big reasons I wrote this is to be a read aloud. Because also, you know, we need to read to our kids, but
Right.
like some books that are for kids are so difficult to read for adults. They are boring. It's the cat ran up the hill. The cat laid in the grass. Like I don't want to read this. I want to actually enjoy as an adult. I want to enjoy this story, and
Indeed.
so I made sure that that was a aspect of Phoebe that as an adult you're going to enjoy this story. By the time you get to the third book, there are so many things in the third book that are going to go right over the heads of the kids, but all the parents are going to be like, "That's hilarious. Um,
Oh,
that's so funny." And so there's a lot of stuff in, but in all of them really, but especially the third book, a lot of that's why I laugh so hard at the third book. And and obviously kids think it's funny too. But because if you're laughing at it, they're like they don't know why. You know how kids are. You start laughing at something, they're just like, they start laughing too.
I
And
love
so
how passionate you are about these books. Like that is amazing. I don't know if you realized just how you really stepped into your power. Like y'all went to a conference, left the conference, not satisfied with what you found as far as book options. Your wife said, "Oh, why don't you write us?" And you was like,
yeah,
you and had a
yeah,
whole idea by the time you made it home. That's powerful. That's really
yeah.
powerful.
And I believe, and just my worldview is this is a gift that God's given me to be able to do,
Yeah.
and if I don't use this gift, I'm going to stand accountable for it one day. God's going to be
Mm.
like, hey, I had these books that you could have written and you didn't, you know, but man, that is, for me, one of my kind of my things in life is I'm not telling God no. You know,
Mm.
if the opportunity presents itself, yeah, we're going to Kentucky, and then from Kentucky we're coming to New Orleans. And I'm gonna pastor that church. I'm gonna take those classes. I'm gonna write these books. Like my New Believers book is the first book I wrote. And I wrote it because we were in North Georgia, and the reading level was really low because to work in a carpet mill, you don't have to read that well. And I would have new converts to Christianity, and um, they couldn't. I would give them a New Believers book, and they couldn't read it. And
Mm.
so um, I wrote one that was on a lower reading level, that would be easier to read and less complex. And people are like, why write it? There's thousands of New Believers stuff out there. Why write another one? So this is what God laid on my heart. Well, now I'm in New Orleans, and I go out to East New Orleans to evangelize, to do street preaching. And whenever I do that, and people come to know, people become Christian, I have a really great resource I can give them,
Mm.
and so it's a, you know, like I said, just I don't tell God no. Just if God puts it on my heart to do it, we're gonna do it, and I'm gonna leave the details up to Him. I'm gonna leave the details up to Him and my wife, and I'm just gonna get out there and do it. So
Nice. I love that. That means you're listening. I don't know if you listen to Wayne Dyer, but Wayne Dyer always talks about not dying with your music in you, like
yeah,
ensuring that you release what you were meant to release while you're here. I believe everyone has a purpose. I do believe that we're all divine beings that have a divine purpose here. It's just you gotta listen, and that's
yeah,
the whole thing. Um Where do we find your books?
So yeah, let me swap over here. So my books are on Amazon.
Okay.
So you can I guess that should have been something I already had on deck. Let me get that on deck real quick.
No
Uh
worries.
yeah,
The links
I
will be
got it right here.
available in the description also.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I've got them right here on Amazon. You can get them right there for that. All three of the three ones currently published are there. You can go to my website, TreyWilliamsBooks.com, and right here, these are links. Each book has the link to the Amazon, where you can go and get those, and then also the swag shop where water bottles, all the stuff. And then there's more stuff in the swag shop. And what in the world? That's not right. And then my Facebook page, Trey Williams Books. You can follow me on Facebook. And then also, if you're interested in the pastoring stuff, I have a YouTube channel, Pastor Trey Williams. We do Bible studies and whatnot, going through the Book of Mark. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And also, you will be able to find me, and I'm so excited about this. You will be able to find me at the Homeschool Yo Kids convention. I will be there with Phoebe, ready to
Yes.
talk, ready to meet everybody, ready to meet all of your viewers, and hopefully bless some families with some books.
Indeed. I'm so excited. I'm excited to have you. Before I let you go, I need three things you would tell families as far as getting their little people into reading. Let's go that route. Like getting their little people into reading. What's three things you would say would be something like, okay,
Yeah.
do this.
First off, read to them. Take the time, read to them. Find good books to read to them. All right, well that's number two. All right, first off, read to them. All right. Don't just give them books and expect them to to know what to do with this thing. Read to them. Use voices. Make it fun. My son reads on an amazing reading level, and my wife, she's 3 inches. He's 3 inches taller than my wife, and she still reads to him. You know,
Nice.
and they read together. Read to your kids. That number one, by far and away, read to your kids. Even if they can read themselves, make it part of your homeschool experience. Time that you sit down together and you enjoy. As they're littles, you're introducing them to books, and as they get older, you're enjoying books together. Do that. Second, read quality books. Read books that are good. There's a lot of garbage out there. And when I say garbage, I mean it's books that are just not good. They sell great because they're full of garbage. I look at the titles in Amazon that my book competes with, and the
Mm.
stuff that are in the bestsellers, and every other one of them, you know, bodily movements, flatulence, and belching is in the title,
Mm.
and it sells books, but that is garbage. The book is built around something that a kid that it is built around this thought process that I'm not going to be able to get my kid to read unless it's about flatulence or belching. That's the
Mm.
only thing they're going to read about. And so, okay, yeah, they might pick that up because they think it's funny, but then when they read it and there's nothing there, there's no story, there's no character development. It is just what's on the cover, flatulence and belching. Then they grow out of that.
Indeed.
And all of a sudden, books are no longer viable. Good quality books. You don't have to read the classics. just read good quality books. Read books that are, um, you can, and I'm gonna tell you, you read the book yourself. And if parents, if you start to read the book and you're like, I'm bored with this book, don't tell your kid to read it. I mean, if you're bored with it, read the book and good quality books. Find and well, how do I find good quality books? I don't know. I'm giving you advice without ways of.
Plan of actions.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
one
I'm just giving you
more.
advice. One more, getting the kids interested in reading. Um, I would say this: build a community around books, and have your kid. Because right now, why is Pokemon popular? Because there's a community around it. Why is some of these video games really popular? Because there's a community around it. So a lot of us, we're homeschooling. We're in cahoots with other homeschooling parents, and you could build community around the books that you're reading of these kids. Like, hey, let's all as a group, let's read this book together. And here on campus, I'm getting the little gaggle of girls that runs around that they've built some community around Phoebe that they really enjoy it, and I
Oh,
love it. It's amazing. Like, it is the coolest thing ever. For me as the author. But yeah, these kids, they want to talk about something, and they want to have something that they can talk about. And whenever you are in a homeschool co-op, you are in you're in a position where you can control some of this stuff. Man, build some community around the books you're reading. I think that would get your littles excited about books. And then
right.
also, um, you know, th- I'm gonna throw a fourth one out. Buy swag. Buy swag to go along with. No, I'm serious. That's why we don't put swag out for making money. We put swag out so that kids are excited about. Man, oh, I got Phoebe on my T-shirt. I got Love, Help, Protect, their slogan. On my T-shirt, and that's cool. And so it gets them. Yeah, it gets them kind of excited about it, and I've seen that excites it about. So I mean, yeah, buy them swag. Harry Potter swag. I'm a Christian, but we're cool with Harry Potter. But they're because they're great books. They're great works of literature. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you, Trey.
absolutely.
Um, build it and they will come. Like I really loved hearing about your journey because that was really awesome. Really, really awesome what you already created thus far. And I see Phoebe becoming a household
I hope
name.
so. I would
Yeah,
love that. I would love
definitely.
that.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the passion that you have in what you're doing. And I look forward to meeting you in Mississippi.
Mississippi. I'm so excited,
Yes.
and it's going to be nice because it's going to be one I'm not going to have to drive real far to.
Yes.
Because
Yes. Yes.
some of the other we're doing several homeschool conventions, and the rest of them it's like hitch up the wagons. We're
Yes.
so
Travel. But yes,
yeah.
families, parents, understand not a journey you have to do alone and understand that there are so many resources and creative ways to teach your children. And I love books. Books are the foundation of my youth by all means. I was reading a lot of things I had no business reading. However, I was reading. So I understand that to foster the love for your children's reading, get them in front of some stuff that's interesting, get them instead of some action, things that definitely challenge their imagination and just make them wonder even more than they already do. So check out Phoebe and her adventures because they sound really amazing. And keep up with Trey Williams and the work that he's doing. It's pretty cool. And homeschool your kids.
That's right.